3 girls, 1 wife. Something is missing.
This guy.
Oh, there's my boys. I know you love your dada. Go on, say it. Dada. Dada.
Yes, of course he loves you. He just doesn't show it on his face. Or with his body language.
You know what else is missing? A lack of a reason for existence besides money. This week on Talking About the Movies, we're talking about the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the 4th installment of the Despicable Me franchise, Despicable Me 4. Plus...
I'd just like to have a drink tonight with someone that knows how to act.
Or somebody who can spend their money wisely. Kevin Costner is back with another multi-million-dollar passion project that, if you've seen Waterworld and The Postman, you kind of pretty much can tell where this is going to go. But who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of a great American saga, or, I've made fun of this over the last month, so you probably know what I'm going to say next. Horizon and American Saga, a double feature this week. Not a good double feature this week on Talking About the Movies.
Hello and welcome to Talking About the Movies, the show where we take a look at the biggest new releases of the weekend, and oh god. I'm not looking forward to this week's show, because we have 2 new releases to look at. One of them came out last weekend, the other one this weekend. I saw both of them this week, and let me just say right now that I did not like either single one of these movies, and it's going to be really... This is going to be a tough one for me to get through because, man, these movies just took me down to another level of lowliness. It's ridiculous. So which one do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the one that's short and sweet, or the one that's long and painful? I think you want to see the short and sweet one first. So, let's talk about Despicable Me 4, this week's big new release. So, in Despicable Me 4, we have Gru, once again played by Steve Carell, and his family forced to relocate after Gru's been compromised yet again, because that's happened in the last movie too. They've been forced to relocate to a safe house to hide from Maxine Lamal, played by Will Ferrell, an old rival of Gru who seeks revenge for his girlfriend Valentina, played by Sofia Vergara. And at the same time, one of the new neighbors, Poppy Prescott, played by Joey King, is intent on returning Gru to villainy. And that's just the basic plot. One of the many, many plots in this movie. We'll get to that in just a second. I've never been a fan of these movies. I've always been the one that have been criticizing Universal for essentially making the Minions their new mascot and pushing somebody like a much funnier character like Woody Woodpecker off to the side, who had been the mascot for so many years, but then these little fuckers came around and completely ruined everything. I just never got invested with any of the Despicable Me movies, honestly. I wasn't that big of a fan of the first one. The second one wasn't. I didn't think the second one was that great either. I didn't. The only ones I really liked were the Minions movies, and those are the ones that the people really hated. But those are the ones where I got the most laughs out of them. Despicable Me 3 is probably the best of the in straightforward Despicable Me films. But even then, it's not that great. The only reason Despicable Me 3 is probably the best is because Trey Parker was great as the villain in that movie. But here. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the bottom of the barrel. This is a movie that, for Illumination, a studio that had a banner year in 2023, with the Super Mario Brothers movie and Migration, their best movies to date, you would think that they would be on their way to becoming that great studio we've been waiting for them to become for the last 14 years, Like they need is like this was supposed Super Mario Brothers and Migration were supposed to be the Peanuts movie and Ferdinand for it's like the Blue Sky Studios and how those movies turn that animation studio around, and yet here we are again with a movie that yeah, it's got the great animation, yeah, the technology has evolved to it. That's one thing I'll give it credit for, but there's just nothing left in the tank to do with these movies. And people still keep going to these movies. Let's be honest. The only reason they're still making these movies is that people are still getting sucked into this. And quite frankly, I don't know why. Except for the fact that these movies are the equivalent of cinematic babysitters. I mean, the parents take their kids to these movies for no particular reason except to just shut them up for an hour and a half. And I guess the movie does that, so I guess I gotta give it that too, but there's so many better options for kids' movies out there, you know? There's still Inside Out 2. You could take them to the Garfield movie. There's so many other movies out there that you could take kids to and get some enjoyment out of. This is just pathetic what they do here. I mean, it's bad enough that Mike White, who wrote Migration, is involved with the script for this, and he's probably, as you know, you bring him in here, we've seen what this guy can do. He's written stuff, he's written School of Rock, he's written The White Lotus, you know, he's been involved with a ton of great stuff, and yet you get him involved in this. It's like you could barely tell he even had anything to do with it. They just said, they probably just saw how successful Migration was and says, well, if we put his name on here, we can convince people that like Migration that he's heavily involved in this. And you can't really tell, honestly. And the worst part about it is, the marketing for this movie was actually pretty good. They're making fun. During the Super Bowl, they had a commercial where they were making fun of AI art. You know, Steve Carell had this thing where they were parodying the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what Warner Brothers was planning on doing with their films. And like, the marketing for this was really good. And this is what it all built up to. Just pointless stories that did not make a whole lot of sense whatsoever. Like, you know what this is? This is The Secret Life of Pets 2 all over again. Secret Life of Pets 2 was a great movie, and then they made the sequel where it was literally nothing but subplots for what could have been a potential TV series that I'm still not convinced was the original plan all along. They probably had a TV series in the works and said, we got to make a sequel to this, so just cram all those stories together in one, and we'll make somewhat of a plot to it. And it was a major letdown from the first film. Still thought it was all right because they had a couple of one-liners that I thought were pretty funny. I mean, anytime you get an animated kids movie where you have a character saying "Pickles is pissed," using the word "pissed," I have to give you credit for that. But it had a bland villain. It had a storyline that didn't really amount to it. The villain was basically a male version of Cruella de Vil. And guess what this movie is? Bland villain, storylines that don't really add up altogether. Like, Will Ferrell plays the villain in this. Now just picture something for a moment here. How awesome think about it. 2010, there was the battle between the original Despicable Me and Megamind. Two animated movies about villains who were supposed to be good, who ended up being good guys. And there was supposed to be a big battle of which one would end up winning that one, who would win that battle, and obviously Despicable Me won. But think about this. Universal Pictures owns Illumination, and now they own DreamWorks. Why the hell isn't this a crossover between Gru and Megamind? Can you imagine what a much better movie this would have been if this was a Despicable Me Megamind crossover? Can you imagine the possibilities of what they could do here? Two different animation studio styles coming together in a movie like this. That would have been so amazing. And you know what else? It would have been the better Megamind sequel than we got in that terrible Versus the Doom Syndicate movie that we got earlier in the year on Peacock. But no, we can't do that because that would be expecting you expecting us to give you so much more, and they don't want you to do that. They packed this with so many notable names in here, and as characters that are completely pointless. The comedy, the things that usually save these movies, isn't that great either. Like it's amazing how much the comedy in here has been regressed down so much. There's possibilities of what they could do here. There's the whole thing with the Mega Minions, which could be funny. I've seen the designs; they're kind of cool, but they really don't do anything new or different with it. They're even taking jokes from other DreamWorks movies, like the laser going out all the way to the Earth. That was done in Over the Head almost 20 years ago. There's references to Terminator 2 because that was a thing in 1991. Back in 1991, even though this is 2024, you know, there's a Challengers reference for the youngsters out there. What was the other one they did that was so weird that they did? They make references to Dance Dance Revolution. When was the last time Dance Dance Revolution was relevant? This is like a movie that was originally written in 2005, and then a script that was sitting around for 20 years, and Universal basically said, we need another Despicable Me movie. And they said, oh, we got this script here that was written in 2005. Let's do this. Like, almost nothing about this movie thinks it is relevant to a 2024 movie. And considering that this took 7 years after the last Despicable Me movie, you would think that there would be at least something of value to this. Like I said, the comedy in here is just bad. Like, they don't deliver, the jokes don't have punchlines. It's like you're watching, it's like you're watching a Dane Cook joke, or, for you political people out there, it's like watching Laura Ingraham trying to be funny, and except that she doesn't know what the punchline is. Like, I always think of Laura Ingraham as the Jon Stewart that's not funny and doesn't get to the point, doesn't get to the punchline right away. Like, that's the kind of humor that's in this movie. Jokes that don't have punchlines, don't have any point whatsoever. As long as they make your kids shut up, they feel like they've completed their mission. And it's just like, it's amazing how lazy this movie is. Like, they go to this house, and I swear to God, it looks like the hotel from Hotel Transylvania. Like, I cannot be the only one that saw the design of this look so similar to the hotel from Hotel Transylvania. It's just, it's asinine. It's asinine how lazy this movie is, considering where Illumination had been going in the last year, and this is where they want, and this is the direction they're going for. At least with Kung Fu Panda 4, Kung Fu Panda 4 was still at least a fun movie, and you can tell this is the movie that I think people were expecting Kung Fu Panda 4 to be like, because just like with Kung Fu Panda 4, they have all these cameos at the end from people from the last couple of movies. From the Minions movies, all the villains from there's Drew's brother Drew, who, they were setting them up for something for fun in the last movie, and then they just kind of abandoned him until the very end. The Doctor's back. He doesn't speak in here, but he's back. Dr. Nefario, who, I guess because Russell Brand is no longer viable in Hollywood anymore. It just feels like I came out of this movie with nothing. Like, there was nothing of value I felt came out of this. I felt like I wasted an hour and a half of my time that I'm never going to get back. And you add in the next movie that we'll look at, which is only 3.5 hours long, that's 5 hours of my life I'm never getting back because of these two movies. Despicable Me 4 is a bad film. I mean, yeah, from an animation perspective, it looks good. The technology has clearly evolved here, but everything else, from the writing to the comedy to the waste of voice acting, to the to the random subplots that don't add up whatsoever to a legitimate storyline. This is the cinematic equivalent of a big waste of time. This whole movie is a waste of your valuable time. And for kids, I feel like that they should be disappointed by this, because even the screening I went to, the kids weren't laughing that much. Even at the moments where there were supposed to be like these huge gaps of silence because they thought they had a big laugh out loud moment. Little gaps of silence. Not a kid is all you heard was like, like that's the most I heard from it, at least from my screening. But yeah, bottom line, I think you can get the point here. Despicable Me 4 really is scraping at the bottom of the barrel, but it's still making money, so that means they're going to keep hashing out these sequels that are going to lead to absolutely nothing, and we just got to go along for the ride from it. But that's not going to stop me from saying that Despicable Me 4 is, without a doubt, one of the worst movies of the year, and one of the worst animated movies I probably have seen in a long, long time. And trust me, that is saying a whole lot. So I think you know what my rating is for this one. Thumbs way down. Thumbs way down on this one. So that's the short and sweet one. Now let's get to the long and painful one, and that is Horizon: An American Saga, Chapter 1. Explore the lore of the Old West and how it was won and lost through the blood, sweat, and tears of many. Spanning the 4 years of the Civil War from 1861 to 1865, embark on an emotional journey across a country at war with itself, experienced through the lens of families, friends, and foes, all attempting to discover what it truly means to be the United States of America. Yeah, this is Kevin Costner once again blowing a shit ton of money on a project that nobody gives a crap about. We get it. You did Dances with Wolves. You won several Oscars for that movie. You were the movie that the Oscars bought, the Orion Pictures bought and paid for you to win the Oscar for Best Picture, when you really were not the Best Picture that year. I'm sorry. The Goodfellas, Godfather Part 3. Hell, Ghost would have been a better winner for Best Picture in 1990. But, there was a time when Kevin Costner was a big deal, and you know, that not just with Dances with Wolves. You know, he was in Robin Hood Men and Prince of Thieves. He was in JFK. He was in The Bodyguard. He was in A Perfect World. He had good movies to his name. But then 1994 came around, and that's when the shit began to hit the fan, because he took on these huge gambles that ended up backfiring big time. You know, it started off with Rapa Nui, which was a film that he thought was going to be the next Dances with Wolves, and it just wasn't. Wyatt Earp, which was fine for what it is, but another one of those gambles that didn't work out. The real gamble, the real big budget gamble that's a misfire, started off with Waterworld, which probably made its money back in due time because of Universal Studios and the fact that the Universal Studios theme parks, and the fact that it had a successful video. But that was not a big hit when it came out. It was one of the biggest flops of '95. You follow that up with The Postman, a movie that nobody wanted to see, not critics, not audiences, and completely crashed and burned to the point where The Simpsons had to make fun of you because of that. You had a slow return to form with Open Range, your next directorial effort, and now you're back with this movie here. And this movie is a film where, yeah, I keep hearing a lot of people want to give Kevin Costner, you know, praise for going out and making a passion project. You know, finally making his passion project, because he's been wanting to make this since 1988, back in the days when he was making stuff like The Untouchables and Bull Durham. In fact, he had it under Disney for a little bit before Disney decided to pass on the project, and eventually it went over to Warner Brothers. But you know, Kevin Costner has found some success in the last couple of years thanks to his work on Yellowstone. He left the show is because he was talking about, you know, there was contract negotiations, but I'm willing to believe that he purposely tried to get himself out of there so he could fund this project, because he so believes in this passion project so much. And then when they announced that Yellowstone was coming to an end, they were just, as Costner was in an interview, just like, you know, man, I hope they get to invite me back for the last episodes. You're the reason why the show was ending in the first goddamn place. Yeah, the reason why he left that show wasn't because, as far as I know, it wasn't because of contract negotiations. I think it was because he wanted to work on this movie, because he felt so passionate about it. Like this is his chance to make this work, and if he wasn't going to be able to come back and do the show, the show was just going to end with that. So the reason why the show is ending is because he left. And like the top-rated show on cable television right now is ending because this dude wanted to make another multi-million-dollar project that's going to backfire badly, and it's already backfiring badly because this movie underperformed so badly at the box office. And yeah, there's 2 more movies already made, and a 4th one that's going to be made, but he needs the funding, because, you know, Kevin Costner doesn't have, you know, surely he doesn't have the money to make this movie. No. He needs more money from to get this made, because clearly he's got a low amount of funds to work with here. Yeah. I'm smelling the bullshit from a long mile away, but it'd be, you know, the whole thing would be worth it if the movies were actually good. And as far as I know, with this first movie, this is this is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And, you know, this is a movie that this is the definition of how you do not waste 3 hours of people's time. Because, my God, this movie is dull as hell. Nothing happens in this movie whatsoever. There are no characters that are worth watching. Too many good, talented people involved in here. But there's nothing going on. Like, this is supposed to be a 12-hour series of movies. This is supposed to be like the Avengers for Middle America, and so far there has been literally nothing of value with this first movie to suggest that this is going to be anywhere near the levels of the Avengers. And, you know, this is what happens when you make a movie for Middle America and try to get it to appeal to everybody, and it just fails miserably. Like, the whole purpose of this was for Kevin Costner to make essentially a TV series for the big screen, because, you know, it works for The Chosen. The Chosen makes a ton of money, but The Chosen is actually a TV show that gets blown up for the big screen because it makes money for Fathom Events, and it has a loyal audience built to it. You're making these movies with the hope that you're going to do the same thing that is with that type of an audience. Even with something like The Sound of Freedom from last year, I feel like that he's trying to do the same thing with that, but there's just been nothing of value from this so far, and nothing of what I see from this movie is Kevin Costner. You know, it's like this. Imagine going to the casino every night and betting $1,000, and betting over $1,000 per week. That's $7,000 a night. And you do it because you have this feeling in the back of your mind that, well, if I bet all this money, I'm gonna win it all back in no time. I mean, clearly, this is gonna work out in my favor. Kevin Costner is the equivalent of that times 4, because he's done this 4 times in the last 30 years, and it has backfired miserably for him because almost none of those movies made profit. Millions of dollars went completely to the wayside, and people's time has been completely wasted by this. And again, all this could be avoided if something of value was happening in this movie, but nothing is happening in here whatsoever. This is the complete opposite of what Kills of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer were. You know, these 3-hour movies, but they keep you so invested in what's going on that you can't help but really enjoy the movies for what they're trying to do, try to do and essentially accomplish. So far, none of this is in this movie. None of this is in the series. There's been nothing about this that I want to see the continuation of here. And as much as I don't want to blame Warner Brothers for this, because most of this is Kevin Costner's money, this is just another bad move by Warner Brothers for putting all the money into this. Saying yes to this overblown, high-budgeted piece of garbage, and this also The Flash as well, but Batgirl, Scoop, Holiday Haunt, Coyote vs. Acme, all those other projects they canceled and wrote as tax write-offs. No, we can't put those out. Here's these regurgitated massive amounts of money that are a complete waste of your time, and we're gonna put them out anyway because we're Warner Brothers. I'm David Zaslav. I'm the biggest scumbag in Hollywood, and I'm gonna continue to do that with every ridiculously stupid thing I ever do. I'm sorry, I always keep going after David Zaslav, but I'm sorry. This dude fucking sucks. The fact that he had the nerve to greenlight this and pick this up, just we can go on this rant for a long period of time. And I say this as somebody that is you people out there might think I hate Kevin Costner. I don't hate Kevin Costner. I think he's a terrific actor. I've seen a lot of movies of his that I've really liked. But I've seen a lot of movies where, you know, you gamble so much money and it always backfires on you. Like, why do you keep doing it? Like, and also, yeah, it's a passion project. Most passion projects do not end up as well as you think they would. Like, there's been a number of passion projects out there that have so much ambition to them, but they just backfire because they don't have it. They seem to go more for. They don't seem to go for what makes the director as great as he is. And like Toys is probably one of the best examples. That was a passion project for Barry Levinson with Robin Williams, and a very ambitious idea, visually pleasing to look at, but the story was just all over the place. The characters were not written well, and there was just nothing of value to it except the visuals. And visuals don't make the movie. It's like with Despicable Me 4. The visuals are great, but the visuals don't make the movie. You need a good story. You need a reason to have people keep coming back to these movies. And Horizon and American Saga has so far not had anything of value to it that makes me say, I want to come back to this world. But who knows? Maybe with the next film, it'll all work itself out. Maybe if he gets these next 2 films done, maybe it works itself out in the end. There's still no reason to release these 3-hour epic movies thinking that you're gonna do what they did back in the day with, you know, Spartacus or Lawrence of Arabia or Cleopatra, Bridge of the River Kwai, you know, these classic epic movies that worked back in the 1960s because nobody really had a straightforward approach to, you know, how to appreciate movies of varying lengths. Nowadays, you really have to be a good movie to be more than 3 hours long. And I think Oppenheimer, Kills of the Flower Moon, a number of different movies have proven that. Dark Knight. This is just a bad movie. This is just a bad start to a series that just seems like it's dead on arrival. This is like Twisters times 4. Like, just not an idea that you want to do unless this is going to end up working out fantastically in the end. Like it's hard to make multi-part movies, you know. Not every multi-part movie can be the Avengers. Not every multi-part movie can be. It's like, you know, Harry Potter. If I was going to say Harry Potter was one of those examples, but even Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 started off on a low note, but then the best stuff came in the second movie. Same with the Hunger Games, you know. Same with what was the other one? Kill Bill. Kill Bill was cut into 2 parts in general, and you know the first film was good, but the best stuff really is in the second film, you know, and everyone has the same complaints with the idea of splitting these movies into multiple parts, and that's mostly because it's for, you know, the money. You know, we saw it last year with Fast and Furious and Mission Impossible. Those movies failed because those movies failed to really gain traction because, you know, you're splitting these movies up, and you know nobody really wants to come back to these movies unless you have a good story to work with. Even a good movie like Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is a movie that gets completely lowball because, you know, now they're because Dead Reckoning didn't do the numbers that they wanted to. That's no longer a 2-part movie. So everything they were setting up in part 1 gonna get completely vaporized and completely get taken out of the realm of things. You know, the Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse is probably one of those examples where, you know, so far it's working out pretty good for them, but we still have to wait to see whatever happens with the next movie, Across the Spider-Verse. That was supposed to come out this year, but because of, you know, the writer strikes from last year, that's gonna wait for a little bit. Rebel Moon was another bad example of splitting a movie into 2 parts. Like, splitting a movie into 2 parts, yeah, it's good for the money. It's not good for the creative ideas of what you're trying to accomplish here. And for what Kevin Costner's trying to accomplish here, I don't think he's going to live. I don't think he's going to get what he thinks he's going to get from it. This is a movie that probably should have been straightforward a TV series. This should have been something that should have been on Paramount Network. This should have been something that should have been seen for free at home, even on a streaming service. You could put it on Max. You could put it on Paramount Plus. You know, put it somewhere where, you know, people can take a break, can go do something else with their time, and, you know, I just don't get it with this. I just don't get it. I don't get why anybody would get behind Kevin Costner because of this. I'm sorry, I like Kevin Costner, but he makes these gambles, and it always backfires on him. But feel sorry for him because you know he's been delaying these movies until he gets the realization of what he wanted to do. You know, screw COVID-19. Screw his parents died in 2021. He's going through a divorce. You know, he's going through a contract dispute. You know, his hit show was ending because he left the show, and now he's talking about, well, I wish they'd bring me back when it was your fault to begin with. And it's just like, just get the hell out of here, dude. Like, this is one of those moments where I'm glad the movie isn't doing well because I'm hoping that his ego will take it down a notch and he'll go back to what made him so great in the beginning. Because this is a movie that is just a waste of time, a complete waste of time. Sitting there for 3 hours, watching this garbage, and not getting anything of value out of it whatsoever. I was furious coming out of this movie. I hate this movie. I hate this. I hate the setup. I hate what he's trying to accomplish. If it all works out in the end, I will take back everything I say. I'll say that the first movie was not great, but you know what? 2, 3, and 4, you turned it around. So good job for you. Congratulations on that. But for right now, this is not worth it. So yeah, this is one of the worst movies of the year. Needless to say, thumbs way down. So even my dog hates it, as you can hear him barking in the background. But I digress. You know what? Screw it. I was just going to do the 2 movies, but I figured, you know what? We need to end this show on a much better note. So let's talk about I'll do 2 quick reviews for you real quick. So, I didn't do a full review for A Quiet Place Day 1 last week, so, here's the quick one. So, A Quiet Place Day 1 is the spin-off and prequel to the Quiet Place franchise, where you have Lupita Nyong'o as a terminally ill woman during the early stages of an invasion in New York City by extraterrestrial creatures who had an acute sense of hearing. She teams up with another person played by Joseph Quinn, and she's got this cat around her while these aliens are attacking. And I really like the first two Quiet Place movies a lot. John Krasinski, I think, has shown especially this year with If, he's one of the great rising directors to look forward to going forward. I'm really excited to see where he goes from here, especially after seeing If. But there's a lot of buzz building up for this. This is directed by Michael Sarnowski, who did the movie Pig, and it was actually appointed by Krasinski to do this film. And really, you really didn't know how they were going to top this off, because they're trying to do what they did with Cloverfield a couple years ago, trying to expand this into a franchise. And it started off great for Cloverfield with 10 Cloverfield Lane, and then it backfired big time with the Cloverfield Paradox, and then that kind of ended that. So far, Quiet Place is 3 for 3, because this was a really enjoyable movie. This is a really good film that stays very grounded, stays very much in the same area that you would expect from, the first two Grindhouse Quiet Place movies. But it works because the characters are really good. You get so attached to Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. Djimon Hounsou from the last movie actually shows up in here, and he's pretty good too. The casting overall is very good, especially, of all things, the freaking cat in this movie, Frodo. Like, you're either gonna love this cat, because he's just such a charming personality of an actor, even though he's a cat. But more importantly, you're either gonna like him or you're gonna hate him, because this motherfucker's always getting out of the way. Is always the first one to know when trouble's afoot. But then again, cats do that. Like, whenever a storm comes, I know my cat will all of a sudden, like, his eyes will go like bug-eye, and then just start going underneath the bed, waiting for the storm to come out. Like, he knows something bad is about to happen, and you can definitely feel that in this particular movie. And it's needless to say, it's not as tense or as terrifying as the other movies, but at the same time, it's still enjoyable. I do like that they do kind of slowly but surely expand on the universe while really not really fully doing so, because they're doing it. It's like a comfort area. They know exactly where to go. They know exactly where to do what they need to do to entertain you. And I think the movie does a good job of that. It's a short movie too. It's only an hour and a half long, which with a franchise of this caliber, I would have expected to go maybe 2.5 hours at least. But these people know what they're doing. They know how to they know how to deliver everything they want to promise you. They know how to deliver it in a nice, reasonable running time where you can look at it and go like, okay, we're glad that we got this out of the way when we needed to, because the film works very well. It's a very entertaining film. It works really well because of the people involved in it. It continues to build on the storyline that's been developing over the last couple of films. It's a really good movie, man. I really like this movie a lot. I think it's a very well-made film. It's a very enjoyable film. You still get some good suspenseful film moments in there, even though it's not as tense and terrifying as the previous films. It's still a really good movie, and I really enjoy it a lot. So, yeah, thumbs up on A Quiet Place Day 1. So, let's go ahead and move on to the other movie I wanted to talk about, and that is Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. So Beverly Hills Cop Axel F is the fourth installment of the Beverly Hills Cop series, coming 30 years after the last movie really dropped the ball and ended the series on a bad note, which Eddie Murphy had been promising for years to finally make the Beverly Hills Cop threequel we've been waiting for. And sure enough, here it is. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, in which Murphy returns as Axel Foley. He returns to Beverly Hills after his daughter Jane, played by Taylor Page, and his old partner Billy Rosewood, played by Judge Reinhold. Their lives are threatened, and she and Axel team up with ex-boyfriend Bobby Abbott, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and his old pals John Taggart, played by John Astin, and Serge, played by Bronson Pinchot, to uncover a conspiracy. Now, I've talked about this movie for the last couple of months now. I've been very skeptical of it, mostly because of my theory on comedy sequels that come way after the last movie, and this is the literal definition of a movie of a sequel coming nearly it was way too long after the last movie, 30 years. And the last time we saw Axel Foley in a movie didn't work out well. Did not work out well at all. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's a complete insult to the original two films. And for a movie with Eddie Murphy and John Landis working together again, you expect a whole lot more with that. But it just was a movie that was just a disastrous film on so many levels. It was a film that failed miserably, and so I was going into this with a lot of skepticism because a lot of the people that are writing this and directing this are names that I'm not very much familiar with. They're not big names here. They did have at one point the two guys who resurrected Bad Boys involved with this. Arby and Adele El Arby and Bilal Fallah, and that probably could have saved the movie in general, but then they dropped out because, they dropped out to do the second Bad Boys movie, and so they brought in Mark Malloy to direct it, a director I'm not too familiar with, and they brought these other guys like Will Beal, Tom Gormican, and Kevin Etten. In fact, I think this is Mark Malloy's first directorial effort, so a lot of skepticism went into this movie for me personally, and I really went into it thinking, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm expecting another Coming to America, another pointless sequel that was being made because Eddie Murphy doesn't have anything else left in the tank. But I am very happy to report that this movie is the complete opposite of Coming to America. In fact, this is the Beverly Hills Cop 3 I've been waiting for 30 years. This was a really good movie. Now, is it as good as the first two movies? No. There's definitely a lot of things about it that I still prefer the first two movies over this one, but it's just a much better movie in general, and you can just tell this was Eddie Murphy coming back. He was fully in game for this. Like, his whole goal of this was to make up to amend Beverly Hills Cop 3, and he does it very well here. It coasts on nostalgic feels from the first two movies because it has a lot of the same people from the first two movies. Judge Reinhold, like I said, who you really forget Judge Reinhold is one hell of a charming actor. Bronson Pinchot was Surge once again back. They bring in new characters played by, like I said, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Taylor Page, Kevin Bacon, and everybody in here works their parts very well. I think this movie was a lot better. I really was surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie because I went into it with the lowest expectations I had, but it's a really enjoyable movie. It's a legacy sequel that doesn't feel like it's being crammed down your throat. It doesn't feel like everything's being forced down on you, and it's just a great fun ride. It's a fun, great movie that really shows you that this series still has life to it. And after all these years of waiting, we finally get a good follow-up to the first two movies, which was really needed after the abysmal disaster that was the third film. And this film just feels like it's right back in. You feel like you're right back in the 1980s when the first two movies came out. This feels like a 1980s movie set in modern times, and it just works so well. It's a really good, well-made film. It's not a great movie by any means. There's still some notable flaws to it overall, but it certainly kicks the crap out of the third film easily. And I'm really happy to report that this is a really damn good movie. If you're looking for the old school Eddie Murphy, you're definitely going to find it in here. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a wonderful, fun time. I needed it after the weekend I had with Despicable Me 4 and Horizon, and I'm so glad that I can proudly say that Beverly Hills Cop Axel F gets a thumbs up from me. I'm so happy to report this, and hopefully they do what they do to Beverly Hills Cop with what happened with Bad Boys. This is show that you still have some life in the franchise, show that you have some life in the tank, and hopefully that if they do another movie, they can follow it up on here and go bigger and better, like they did with Bad Boys Ride or Die. But we'll wait and see what happens on that front, though, of course. But yeah, I wanted to end the show on a better note because those first two movies really just took me out. But at least I can say there are two really good movies that you should be seeing right now: A Quiet Place Day 1 and also Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into our recap. I gave a thumbs up to Bad Boys Ride or Die, which I thought was just as good, if not better, than the last movie these guys worked on. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence show they still have enough juice in the tank, and Bad Boys has essentially become for Sony what Mission Impossible has become for Paramount. That franchise that seems like it's dead, and then all of a sudden they find new life to it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys do next with another movie. Really good time all around. I had a fantastic time watching this film. Big thumbs up, two big thumbs up for Inside Out 2, which I still say is the best movie released this year so far. A sequel that seemed rather unnecessary, but it delivered it delivers more than what it promises. I'm still very much convinced that this is slightly better than the original film, and the original film is a great movie. They expand on the world, they have great characters, the comedy is much better, the animation is great, the ways that they expand on the animation is incredible. I really love this movie a lot. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. It's going to be really hard to top what these guys have done with this film. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I gave a thumbs way down to Despicable Me 4, a movie franchise that is completely run out of ideas, completely run out of comedy, completely run out of anything. But as long as they keep making the money and keeping the kids quiet in the movie theater, they're going to keep making these movies. I'm going to be forced to see them, but this was the bottom of the barrel for the Despicable Me franchise. This is the absolute worst of the worst, and such a disappointment after the great year that Illumination had the year before. Yet another major disappointment, this time from Kevin Costner, who spends hundreds of millions of dollars wasting your time with Horizon American Saga, which I gave thumbs way down to. If these next movies that he does turns it around, then I will completely forgive him for this, but I'm not going to forget the 3 hours that I had to waste watching this piece of garbage. This is one of the worst movies of the year, easily. However, I go back to the positives. I give thumbs up to A Quiet Place Day 1. Not quite as good as the other two Quiet Place movies, but Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, and that friggin' cat Frodo really are the things that hold this movie together. It's still got some suspense to it. It still shows that the Quiet Place franchise has been very consistent in terms of quality entertainment. I've really enjoyed these movies. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next with it. And finally, I am very happy to report that Beverly Hills Cop Axel F gets a thumbs up from me. This is a movie that I went into with such low expectations, and I was very happy with the results for it. This is what Beverly Hills Cop 3 should have been. A good, fun sequel that's not as good as the other two movies, but it just takes you back to the 1980s when these movies were prevalent, and these films were, and just seeing everybody back together, Eddie Murphy, Judge Reinhold, John Astin with the new people involved, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Taylor Page, Kevin Bacon. It just really gets me excited to see where they go from here. Hopefully with the next movie they can expand on this, but I'm really happy to report that this is a damn good movie, and one you should definitely check out. So there you go. That's the movies of June and early July, and we've got some lows coming up in the next couple of weeks, because we got Fly Me to the Moon next week. I have no real intentions of seeing that. I think that movie looks pretty bad. It's an Apple original film. Probably spent $200 million on it, which probably means that the movie's not that great, because as we've seen with Argyle, Napoleon, and what was the other one? There was another one that they spent $200 million on that I can't remember right now. I can't find it. But Fly Me to the Moon has a $100 million budget, so maybe they're learning. Maybe they're learning to cut the budget down, but the film still looks pretty generic. That's the problem with most of the Apple TV movies, is that most of them don't even feel like real movies. They feel like TV shows, and this Fly Me to the Moon looks like it's one of those movies. But yeah, so I'm not going to go check that out. Twisters, I think I've pretty much told you everything I needed to tell you about that. How much I'm looking forward to that one. So probably the next time you'll hear from me on this particular show will be when Deadpool and Wolverine comes out at the end of the month, and obviously I'm looking forward to that. I think everybody's really looking forward to seeing what they'll do with that. I can't wait to check that out. So here's hoping that. So hopefully that will be the next time I see you on this show. But if you want to see some other reviews I've done, like for Inside Out 2, go ahead and click the link that I'm going to have on the next page. Check out the playlist of some of the other shows we've done, some of the other movies I've reviewed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.